Kurt Warner here on the Rich Eisen Show here in Houston. Good to see you, Kurt.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
So, what are your memories of that play? Right there.
Oh man, I mean, I could tell you everything about
Please,
the play.
go for it. Go for
everything from before we went onto the field after Tennessee had just tied it up, and I was on the sideline getting ready to go out, and Coach Vermeil comes over and standing next to me, and he goes, "This is just how you played it out in your front yard. This is how you dreamed it. 2 minutes to go in the Super Bowl, a chance to winning drive, touchdown pass to win the game. You know, it happened a little quicker than we all thought. The first play out, remember the play. It was 999 F-seam H balloon. And then I remember the fact that all week long we had talked about throwing go routes. And we talked about how Tennessee loved to play high shoulder technique, which means they stay above your receiver. So we talked when back shoulder fades weren't the in thing like they are now in the NFL. We talked about throwing back shoulder. And you saw in that particular, situation, drops on his back shoulder, Ike adjusts to it and then makes a great run after the catch. And I remember the fact that I didn't see any of it. I just heard the fans. I was on the ground after getting hit by Javon Curse, and you don't know what happens, and you're kind of listening. All of a sudden the fans go nuts, and just able to peek around everybody enough from the turf to see Isaac kind of weaving between everybody and getting into the end zone.
What a moment. And then – I mean, you left a lot of time left on that clock.
I
we
know,
all know
way
what
too much time.
Steve McNair did. What was your vantage point? Were you looking? Are you one of the? Were you one of those types of like I can't look, I can't see?
I mean, you have to watch. I mean, in that kind of setting, knowing that everything is on the line, you had to watch, and at the same time, you had to appreciate. The ironic thing was, I found myself in that same situation 3 times in my career in the Super Bowl where we'd either tied or gone ahead.
That's right.
And then you put another great player out on the field like a Steve McNair and just watch him do what he does. Watch Tom Brady do what he does before he was really Tom Brady, and then watch Ben Roethlisberger do what he does in those situations. And you can't help but just appreciate the moment that you're there, but also appreciate the greatness on the other side. And we were fortunate in the first one that Mike Jones made that awesome tackle, and we got the win.
And you're referring to the Roethlisberger touchdown drive that he engineered in that Super Bowl. Prior to you joining the NFL Network, all of our crew, we were, we were in different parts of the stadium, and I remember we all met in the tunnel right around the time when you started your drive, and then it wound up with all of us walking onto the field just as Larry Fitzgerald was running for that touchdown.
Really? Okay.
And Marshall turned to me and goes, "That's kind of like what happened with us and Isaac Bruce."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a different route.
Yeah, no,
but just
exactly.
you know what I mean. But just towards the end of a game,
exactly.
An
About 2
all-time
minutes to
great
go.
wide receiver making a great play and from a high-quality throw, I might add. And it's just neat to be having front row seats for those sorts of things. And a lot of talk about the greatest show on turf, Kurt, this week because of the numbers that the Atlanta Falcons have put up, and they're right there. Just statistically, numbers are right up there. How do you think these Falcons compare to your Rams, Kurt?
Well, I think they're built very similarly. I'm still going to say, I mean, that collection of talent that we had with the Rams was second to none. I don't know. I mean, I think both wide receivers eventually are Hall of Famers. You got a guy like Oz and then Ricky Prohl, who's been phenomenal in this league, Marshall. So we had so many great weapons, but that's very much how Atlanta's built, is they've got weapons all over the place. They've got their key in Julio Jones, but then they've got the 2 backs out of the backfield, and that really is what made us special, I believe. We had the 4 wide receivers that were great, and we would have been great, but 2-8 in the backfield, and what he was able to do was incredible. And he made it a different. He was a difference maker in every game that we played in, and they've got 2 guys that maybe together make up a Marshall Faulk, but that's going to be a key, I think, is how does New England counter those guys, and are they able to get those guys loose a little bit in the passing game? Because I think that's where they can get an advantage.
Well, I mean, I hear from Rams fans, and I also hear from others. Well, the thing that New England can do is they just hit everybody in the mouth like they did to you guys that day. I mean, would you say that is
I think it's
what happened and what they might do?
No question about it. I think when you're a timing-based offense and you're based on speed, that the biggest factor you have is to slow that down. And whether that's hitting the backs out of the backfield or getting after Julio Jones. And I think, and I give credit to Bill Belichick because he thinks of so many different things. But I think he went into our Super Bowl and said, we're going to make the officials throw the hankies over and over again because I know they don't want to throw a lot of penalties in the game. And we're going to beat them up and bang them and grab them and do whatever we have to do early on to slow them down. And then once they start throwing flags, we can pull off a little bit, and it's kind of what happened. But it took into the second half till he started getting some of those flags, and then they loosened up. We were able to have some success and tie it back up. But a great game plan, knowing what we did and how to slow us down, and they executed it very well.
Kurt Warner, my compadre from NFL Game Day Morning, 8.5 hours worth on Super Sunday, and one of my favorite people on planet Earth right here on The Rich Eisen Show. And you're a perfect person to ask this question. You saw the birth of the Brady dynasty right there in front of you. You watch more quarterback film than any other human being, I know. Yeah. So what do you think makes Tom Brady so great, Kurt?
Well, I mean, I think first, any great quarterback handles every situation well. And that to me with Tom, I mean, way back to when he was a young pup, and here he is in the Super Bowl, and everybody's saying, okay, just take a knee and go into overtime.
Yeah, John Madden, by the way, was saying that on the broadcast.
Exactly. And he leads his team down, and that's the first win. And I think 4 times in the Super Bowl, he's led game-winning drives when he's won the Super Bowl. So he's great in those moments. But he's just, to me, he's always in control of what's going on. He sees everything. And so where a lot of quarterbacks try to take chances or don't always see everything, he's always going to take what a defense gives him. And he's always going to put pressure on a defense because he's not going to make dumb decisions over and over again. And, you know, when you can be a quarterback that does that, and then you play well in the final moments of every game, you're going to continually win like he has. And so, I mean, there's just so many factors to it. But what he does, I'd love to watch film of him, because I tell all these young quarterbacks that I talk to and work with, you know, just watch what he does once the ball's in his hands. He knows where he's going with it. He knows where the weakness of the defense is, and he takes it. He's not worried about being flashy and making all the 60-yard bomb plays. He's willing to take a 5-yard pass. He's willing to take a 10-yard pass if that's what the defense is going to give him. And as you see, it translates into success when you attack a weakness of a defense, and I don't know if anybody's done it better than he has.
So what do you think happens on Super Sunday when it all comes down to it?
You know, I mean, I always reserve my right to change until Sunday when we make our picks. But
it's all good.
But I'm leaning towards New England. When I watch their defense and the flexibility of their defense and the fact that they come in after just a week of preparation and do more things differently than they did the week before than anybody in the National Football League. And I think that's hard to prepare for if you're the Atlanta Falcons. As good as you are, and you can always say, well, we're going to do what we do, but they're going to have some adjustments and things that they do to try to take away your strengths, and you've got to be able to counter that very quickly in a Super Bowl. Nobody does that better. So with their defense and Tom Brady, I'm leaning towards New England.
Well, and I'm going to say this, and I know you don't like it, but I'll do it anyway. Okay? You know where I'm going to go with this one, because we do this all the time on Game Day Morning. And I'm saying this because, you know, the show is out there, and folks watching here in Houston, and there are going to be some who are going to be in the room voting on the Pro Football Hall of Fame on Saturday. We have our fun with you on Game Day Morning. The number of times that Steve Mariucci makes a bold prediction during our playoffs, calling for somebody to beat your record, and the number of the number of records that he mentions, that not only do you still hold, but after the bold prediction came up short, you still now hold. And in this great game with this, I mean, this trophy gives me goosebumps just sitting here. This trophy, what it means to this sport, your fingerprints were on it once, and the other 2 times where you tried to get your fingerprints on it and could not, you still came up with the 2 other most prolific passing games in the history of the Super Bowl. You owned 1, 2, and 3 in that big game. And then the number of fans that are right behind us right here who came up to me before and saying, Kurt Warner's coming here today. Your popularity is still through the roof. I love you. Your name should be called on Saturday, and I want that to happen. And everybody here does too.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. It's Kurt Warner. I will see you on Sunday.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.